ran for 21 years, so it was a nice long time. But why do you think the audience figures sort of dwindled towards the end, leading to its cancellation in 2003?
It went crap. It went absolute rubbish. And you can see it happening towards the end of the Jordache storyline. They'd been fighting for years to become popular. And then with the Jordache storyline, and without a doubt, it was the minutiae of research and detail that made that story brilliant. And then the casting on top of that, and then the fact they let it go out for 2.5 years, that caught the public's attention. And I know that the court scenes were, I think Brookside was sort of averaging in its worst for about 500,000 viewers. And the trial week went to something like 10.5 million viewers. So they suddenly got the public's attention. And they just went mad. They were clearly thinking, oh, right, okay, it's this sensationalist stuff that people want. And it's almost like its voice was compromised. And you can see it slowly happening after the Jordache storyline. It just becomes more and more silly, and characters aren't real. And then Hollyoaks, without a doubt, damaged Brookside. That started in about 95. You can see, knowing how TV works and everything, you can see, I'm watching old episodes of Brookside now. I've got up to summer of 96, and you can see, they used to be really good. They used to be really visual as well as well written, and they had like steady camera shots and they'd pan around. That was gone. It's just very much like the world of Brookside seems to have shrunken. It just got boring. I thought the plots got quite boring. Characters didn't really resonate as real. Like the Simpson family, that was the big family that moved in after the Jordache storyline, and they just were so snobby. I don't think they were well acted either, and it just seemed what was so brilliant and natural suddenly become forced. And then as it went on, it got very plasticky, and all the cast become like this Botox kind of plastic perfect, especially the female characters. Everything just seemed to blow up. They just kept blowing up the nightclub, it seemed, for a few years. It became a computer game. There wasn't actual storylines. It just became incident-led. Then a helicopter crash. It couldn't get away from its drug. They had huge success with an intelligent Jimmy Corkill on drug storyline. It just seemed to get stuck in that rut of repeating drugs and drugs and drugs. And the Bangkok, Lindsay Corkill and Mike Banged Up in Bangkok was okay. Wasn't as good as the previous stuff. But then mini Jimmy or little Jimmy coming back and dying of drugs, it's just boring. I just found it so... I actually went on Channel 4's Right to Reply and complained, saying, what's happened to my best show? It's become tedious. And without a doubt, it's because Phil Redmond's focus was on Hollyoaks. He let the golden goose slide, and it led to it just become unwatchable in the end. It just become this show that was about the zeitgeist that captured Britain. It just become another TV show. It seemed desperate. They kept changing the format. They did a filmic look instead of the normal video look. They started doing all these jump cuts, putting music on it, doing like little strange things with the edit, shot within shot. When you start doing that, you're on troubled waters, isn't it?
Absolutely, I would agree. I lost interest when the sort of realism went out of it. Not watching, to be honest. But obviously, we're 17 years down the line from when it finished. Why do you think fans still hold it in such regard all these years later?
I think it was intelligent. I think it was, Channel 4 was seen when it launched as a sort of minority channel. And Brookside kind of breathed. I always say at its peak, and for me its peak was in the early to mid-90s. When you watched Corrie and EastEnders, everything seemed to be so quick. And Brookside, they spent ages putting logs on the fire, really building a complex plot, so that then when it ignited, bang, it was explosive. And then the story was the consequence. They didn't just let stuff drop. Like if you watch the Jordache thing, and the whole lesbian subplot with Beth, the mum keeps repeating it. Is this what your dad's done to you? Is it because they didn't let it drop? They stuck with the psychology of the characters. And the best drama is character-led. The best TV I've seen since Brookside is Game of Thrones. And that, again, was brilliant for 7 series. It was totally character-led. Everything that happened seemed like the next logical step. It didn't shoehorn in plots because they wanted to do a plot. They found a way of making that plot like a natural fit for the character.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing that, and it hit the fan. And I don't think soap opera since has ever been that honest. It hasn't put character at the heart. It's all about ratings, sensationalism. I love the soap opera genre. I don't watch any of them now. I think they're awful. They're an insult to your intelligence.
Absolutely. I think the grit went out of all of them. I ever watched others apart from Brookside, funny enough. And it was when I finally moved to Liverpool, strange enough, it was one of the first places I went to get my picture taken on the close, just like everyone else. Felt a bit embarrassed about it, but had to do it.
People still do it now, don't they? They're still going to the close. You can find it on Google Maps. It's people that felt, I think when you feel something, it stays with you. And I think people really felt Brookside. They felt the characters. And you don't forget that.
Absolutely. So thanks, Steve, for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you.
People are going to love listening and reminiscing about the old shows. So perhaps you can come back on again someday, talk a bit more about Brookside and other shows as well. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Steve. Cheers. Thanks.